everybody. Today I want to talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. It exists, and I want to talk about it because I want to talk about the relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker and many of the various things that happen within this show that really don't make a lot of sense or that kind of rub me the wrong way. So, without further ado, let's begin. Today I want to start out with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Obi-Wan Kenobi starts his new journey in this show on the planet of Tatooine, working a 9 to 5. For some reason, I'm not really sure why. Obi-Wan Kenobi seems to have some sort of job butchering up some meat inside of what is essentially a giant open field butcher stand, chopping up some food, sending it down the line, pocketing a little bit of it for his little camel friend, as we will see later, and going back home so he could then eat some lunch, go back up to the rocks, and spy on Luke Skywalker so he can ensure the boy's safety. After looking over Luke Skywalker through his binoculars, Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't seem to have any actual connection to the Force or any actual connection to the world between worlds / the whims. Obi-Wan Kenobi is cut off from the Force. He's been working his 9 to 5 for about 10 years to make ends meet, and now he's just been watching Luke Skywalker from afar instead of interacting with his family like Uncle Owen or Aunt Beru. In fact, it really comes to a head whenever Uncle Owen literally encounters Obi-Wan Kenobi and tells him to stay away from Luke Skywalker because he doesn't want his influence being placed onto the boy and making him believe any of his Jedi nonsense.
To leave us alone, Ben.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father?
Now, at the very end of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Yoda tasks Obi-Wan Kenobi with a super important mission. To A, protect Luke Skywalker and look over the Lars family to ensure that nothing ever happens to them, and B, for Obi-Wan to brush up on his training so he can learn how to communicate with the cosmic side of the Force and how he can learn how to communicate with Qui-Gon Jinn, his former master. But the main issue obviously being that Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't do that. He doesn't train himself in the Force, he doesn't train himself to learn how to communicate with ghost spirits effectively, and he spends 10 years basically on a 9 to 5. The only thing that he actually does properly and somewhat well is defending Luke Skywalker and the Lars family from whatever threats may pass them by, if there were any to begin with in the first place. And look, I really don't want to talk about the Reva stuff because that's where it gets really weird, but I feel like I have to anyway, so why not? So Reva has these random weirdos kidnap Leia Organa so she can bring Obi-Wan Kenobi out into the open because for some reason she's completely obsessed with Obi-Wan Kenobi because Anakin Skywalker, who was the apprentice of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 3, turned to the dark side and started murdering all of the children. So Reva blames Obi-Wan Kenobi for Anakin turning to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader, so she wants to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, kill Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then kill Vader in the process. So Bail Organa hits up Obi-Wan Kenobi, tells him that Leia has been kidnapped, says he also has a responsibility to take care of both children, not just one, and he goes to Tatooine in person to talk to Obi-Wan Kenobi about Leia, and Obi-Wan agrees that he will go find Leia, but he does so very unwillingly because he's only doing it for Bail Organa. Now, in Obi-Wan's credit, he does make a good point. He doesn't want to leave the boy unattended because anything can happen out here in the basic slums of Tatooine. There could be raiders, mercenaries, bounty hunters, the Hutts. Literally anything could come out of the woodwork and kill literally anyone in the Lars homestead. And through that reasoning, Obi-Wan doesn't want to leave the planet, which I completely understand, but Bail decides to pull a bitch move. And instead of this being a whole situation where Obi-Wan Kenobi wants to protect Luke, instead they make it out to be Obi-Wan feels bad about him still being responsible for Order 66, the entirety of the Jedi Order falling, and not, seeing the dark side of the Force inside of Anakin when he had the chance, and him kind of seeing himself as being responsible for the entirety of these events that he could never have controlled in the first place because Anakin had been manipulated by Palpatine since he was fucking 10! And while this entire thing is going down, while Obi-Wan Kenobi is trying to find out the location of Princess Leia, and while Leia is trying to escape her captors, Obi-Wan Kenobi's kind of having a whole breakdown of who he used to be. He has his lightsaber on his hip. He's trying to trudge through this entire massive city, and he's trying to find Leia. But the problem is that Obi-Wan Kenobi is not really connected to the Force yet, and he's not the whimsical, sarcastic character that we know from the old TV shows or from the old movies. This is an aged Obi-Wan who has to rely on his wit and his ability, not on the Force. Fortunately, however, Obi-Wan Kenobi manages to convince Princess Leia to go with him, and they quickly try to escape off-world while Reva is in hot pursuit. This ultimately leads to Reva executing the Grand Inquisitor and revealing to Obi-Wan Kenobi that Darth Vader is actually Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin is still alive. So Obi-Wan Kenobi and Princess Leia are going on their own miniature adventure and utilizing the path, which effectively devolves down to a path of where individuals who are Force sensitive have the ability to escape the Empire and to escape their captors so they can live their lives peacefully and out of the way of the Empire's hair. Unfortunately, however, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a high priority target, and with him on the loose and with him being revealed to the Galactic Empire, Darth Vader comes into play, and it is not a good time for anyone involved. Vader, from this point, effectively goes sicko mode. He starts attacking random villagers, he snaps somebody's neck, he then has a cat and mouse chase fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi to the point where he literally tortures him to the point where he's passed out and has third-degree burns, and he needs a bacta tank to be able to save his life. But unfortunately for everybody involved, Princess Leia is now captured by the Empire, and Reva is now going to begin the process of torturing her to discover what information she has about Obi-Wan Kenobi so she can get her fever dream fetish of getting revenge out of the way. So naturally, Obi-Wan Kenobi has to come up with a plan to save Leia, and he does so by pulling a Cal Kestis and going under the water through an evacuation port, and manages to sneak his way into the Inquisitorius so he can save Leia from the clutches of Reva. Unfortunately for Reva, however, Vader's very mad about the fact that she allowed Obi-Wan Kenobi to get away, so she, thankfully, manages to hack Lola to the point where she can actually use Lola as a way to track not only Obi-Wan Kenobi and Leia Organa, but also manages to control Lola to the point where they disable the security systems for the base where they are hiding. And soon after, Reva is then knighted by Lord Vader, becomes the Grand Inquisitor, lands on the planet, and has a heart-to-heart with Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is effectively where Reva reveals her backstory. Basically, she was a Padawan apprentice on Coruscant in the Jedi Temple. Her master died. She was nearly killed by Anakin. And now she's setting her life mission to infiltrate the Inquisitorius, to become an Inquisitor, and to finally murder Anakin Skywalker, as well as Obi-Wan Kenobi, for the actions that they took part in during Order 66, and for Obi-Wan for not doing anything about Anakin Skywalker betraying the Jedi Order and causing the deaths of so many Jedi. After the botched invasion of the facility, so many people dying, and the refugees leaving Jabim, Reva then tries to fight Lord Vader 1v1, and it doesn't very go well for her because she gets absolutely soloed by Vader, who's not even really trying, who is so unimpressed with Reva's skill as a Sith or as an Inquisitor that he literally throws a lightsaber back at her and says, 1v1 me, bro. So Vader casually teaches her a lesson, brings her down to her knees, and then giving her a PTSD fever dream where he effectively stabs her in the gut and leaves her to die on the planet before revealing that this was his plan the entire time and that the Grand Inquisitor is actually still alive. R.I.fucking-P. Vader then engages in hot pursuit to obtain his prize, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan then leaves the ship, takes Vader along with him to an uninhabited planet, and they proceed to have a massive duel where Vader's mask is then cut up the side to reveal the face underneath of Anakin Skywalker, where Anakin reveals that he is not Obi-Wan's failure, that he is truly now and forever will be Darth Vader. Obi-Wan Kenobi then later has a heart-to-heart encounter with Leia Organa, telling her that she has admirable qualities from her mother and her father, these kind of qualities that she will bring forth into the future, not as a rebel leader, but as a hero of the galaxy. Obi-Wan Kenobi then moves out of the dwelling that he has called home for many years. Having a conversation with Uncle Owen, they both agree that Luke needs to remain as a child for as long as he can, and Uncle Owen even invites him to meet Luke Skywalker face to face for the first time in over 10 years. With the show's finale finally ending on Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi meeting for the first time in so many years, with Qui-Gon as a Force ghost, ready to begin Obi-Wan Kenobi's true training. So there you have it. As a show, it is not the worst thing in the world, but very, very, very underperforming as a TV series. But as a movie, specifically by the guy who created the movie, known as Kai Patterson, I really recommend you watching it. It is a fantastic piece of art. It is a fantastic piece of cinema, and I recommend that you watch it. I would give this a 4 out of 10 for the actual show, but a 9, maybe an 8.5 out of 10 for the actual Kai Patterson movie. So anyway, if you want to watch this, go to the Kai Patterson thing. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. Either way, I'm out of here. May the Force be with you. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Goddamn.